Hi everyone, it's Rachel, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make these kawaii churros using polymer clay. So let's get started. So to begin, I'm making the churros first, and I took this light tan coloured clay and I rolled it into a cone shape. Now to make the shape of the churros, I'm going to be pushing the clay through my star icing tip, which looks like this. If you don't have an icing tip, I do have another video on some different ways that you can make icing, which would also work for the shape of the churros. So I placed my clay into the piping tip, and then I just used a ball tool to push through the clay, and then I trimmed it off. Now to add some colour to the churros, I'm going to be shading them with my chalk pastels and a fluffy brush. You want to make sure that you turn them over and get all the sides, and I didn't actually worry about the bottom part because this will be in the paper anyway, so you won't even see it. To add some even more realistic colour, I scraped some of the shavings from a darker brown chalk pastel and then also lightly dusted this over the churros as well. Next up, we're going to be making the paper part that holds the churros together. I've decided to make mine white, so here I've got some white polymer clay and then I'm just rolling it down on my work surface into a flat sheet using my rolling pin. Then I took a template that I made out of paper to help me get the right shape. The shape that I ended up using is kind of like a very wonky rhombus, and I don't know why. That's just kind of the shape that I found worked best for the folds that I wanted to make. Once I had cut it out of clay, I then turned my funny looking rhombus around to the side and I placed my churros on top of the clay. You want to make sure that they are able to stick out at the top, and once you've placed the churros inside, you can then go ahead and fold it over. So I started folding the right side first and then wrapping the left side of the clay all the way around. And then once I did that, I actually ended up unfolding it because I found that I had a lot of room inside and I wanted to add an extra churro. So that's what I'm doing here, and then once I had added that extra one, I then folded it all back up again. You can see that in the process of doing this, some of the chalk pastel powder has come off onto my fingers and then onto the white clay. So to clean that up, I used a cotton bud and some nail polish remover to make the clay nice and white again. Now it's time to go ahead and add a face. So I firstly created 2 indents where I wanted the eyes to go, and then I added in 2 balls of black clay. I attached on a small U shape of black clay for the mouth, and then I also added 2 balls of pink clay for the cheeks. At this point, I decided to add an eye pin and make it into a charm, and then we are going to make the chocolate sauce next. So to make the chocolate sauce, I'm using some liquid clay, and the one I've chosen is Sculpey Bacon Bond because it is thicker than TLS or the Fimo liquid gel. I poured some onto a piece of paper, and then I just scraped in some brown chalk pastels and then mixed it in really well until I got the colour that I wanted. Then I just dipped in my needle tool and carefully drizzled the liquid clay over top of the churros until the ends were covered. At this point, you can then go ahead and bake your charm in your oven according to your package's instructions. It was then time to add the sugar coating to the churros, and here I'm doing an experiment to see what material I preferred the look of. So I had prepared 3 spare churros that were already baked, and then I took my trial samples of salt, caster sugar, which is just fine sugar, and then also some white glitter. To attach these onto my clay, I'm using some UV resin. I started off with the grains of salt, so I brushed some resin onto my churro, and then I tried rolling it in the salt, but it was having a hard time sticking, so I actually ended up having to dab the salt on. I think that the grains of salt were just too large for the piece. My next trial was the caster sugar. So again, I applied the resin, and this one was much easier just to roll in the sugar, and it stuck really nicely. And then lastly for the trial pieces is just this plain white glitter. It doesn't have any iridescence to it. So here you can see my little experiment pieces and how they turned out. And in the end, I decided going with the caster sugar for my actual charm because I like the look of it the best. So once my charm had been baked, I took some super glue and I popped it on the eye pin so that it wouldn't fall out. And then just like my experiment pieces, I applied some resin onto just the churro part, and I tried to avoid the chocolate. I then sprinkled the caster sugar on top so that it would stick, and then because I was using UV resin, I did have to cure this under a UV light so that it would harden. Once you've done that, you can then glaze the rest of your charm and it's completely finished. So here is what my Kawaii Churro charm ended up looking like. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I think the churros look really realistic and extra delicious. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for lots more crafty videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!